Hi, my name is Azlin Polat, and this is my screencast for Project 1 system calls. In this project, I implemented 3 system calls in the Reptilian kernel to support process logging. These system calls allow user space programs to get the current process log level, set the process log level, and send the log message to the kernel at a specified log level. I also created a static library to allow programs to interact with these system calls and tested everything using the provided test programs. Now I will walk through the kernel modifications, user space library, and testing process. First, I SSH into the virtual machine and navigated to the kernel source directory. The first file I modified is syscall64.tvl. I registered my 3 new system calls at entries 435, 436, and 437. Get process log level, set process log level, and process log message. This tells the kernel how to map system calls numbers to their corresponding functions. Then in syscalls.h header file, I declared function prototypes for my system calls. These function signatures allow other kernel files to recognize and call these system calls. Now in sys.c, first I defined a global variable to store the process log level, initializing it to 0. Get process log level simply returns the current process log level. Set process log level. This function checks if the caller is a super user and validates the log level before updating it. If the log level is less than 0 or greater than 7, or when the user is not a super user, it returns an error. If the log level is valid and the user is a super user, it updates the global process log level. Next is process log message. This function checks the log level, copies the message from user space, and logs the message with the corresponding kernel log level using printk. The log message format includes the executable and the process ID. Now I will briefly show the p1.diff patch file, which contains all these modifications. After modifying the kernel, I built it and installed it using make, sudo make install, sudo make modules install, and then I rebooted the virtual machine. In home/reptilian directory, I created a process log directory and added these 2 files. This is the header file for the static library. This file defines function prototypes. The syscall numbers defined, library function prototypes, and harness function prototypes. Now let's take a look at the implementations of these functions in process log.c. This function calls the get process log level system call using the syscall interface. It retrieves the current global process log level from the kernel. This function calls set process log level system call, passing in the new log level, and it returns the updated log level on success or an error code on failure. This function calls the process log message system call, passing in a log level and a message. It returns the level if the message is logged or an error code if the message is invalid. And let's look at the harness functions, which help test the system calls. Retrieve set level parameters. This function returns an array of parameters used to call the set process log level syscall. It allocates memory dynamically and stores syscall number, parameter count, and new log level. Retrieve get level parameters. This function returns an array of parameters for the get process log level syscall. It only stores the syscall number and parameter count. This function processes the return value of set process log level. It simply returns the log level or an error code. This function processes the return value of get process log level. It returns the retrieved log level or an error code. And this function processes the return value of process log message. It returns the log level if successful and an error code otherwise. Then to compile the library and to create libprocesslog.a, which is a static archive that can be linked with user space programs and the library object, I created a make file. Now to compile the library, I run make. I transfer the provided test files into the virtual machine using sftp. Then I extracted the files and they are now in home Reptilian. As you can see here, I already compiled the test programs using the provided commands. Now I will run the tests to demonstrate functionality. To run the given library tests, as we can see here, it says success, doesn't print, fail, and we didn't crash. Now let's run the harness tests, not crash, and all tests pass. Concludes my screencast for Project 1 system calls. I implemented 3 system calls for process logging, created a static library for user space access, and successfully tested the functionality. All modifications were demonstrated and test results confirmed correct behavior. Thank you for watching.